let's call the meeting to order at 6:36, and my apologies for the delay.
Apologies coming in.
Okay. She can.
Apologies
Right here.
party.
No. Yeah.
You the first or the
Okay.
last.
Yeah, last is often best.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at the agenda. First of all, everyone's here except Mitch. He has an excused absence. Okay, and then let's talk to the agenda. I have a couple of things under new business. First of all, we're going to talk about a 20-year dues projection that Joe and Melinda have been working on, and then I'd also like to bring up, so for C, we'll do an update on the current draft dues proposal. Don't know how many of you have been following all the discussions with the board. I know you had enough when you had your own meeting with the managers, so some
Right.
things have changed a little.
So just to clarify, B will be the 20 years dues projection, C, update on current draft dues proposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next on our agenda, there are 3 sets of minutes.
Can we do introductions?
Yes.
Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Yes,
I don't know
actually,
these
we
people.
can.
Sorry, can
Yes, we
you
can.
accept the agenda?
Can we accept the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, by acclamation, we're good. Okay. All right, so part of roll call would be to do an introduction. This is Jeremy Newman. He is our auditor who has just completed our 2018 audit. And he's going to be doing a presentation tonight, letting us know how things went. All right, you know Melinda?
No?
Oh, you didn't meet Melinda? Melinda is our accounting manager.
Melinda is our new accounting manager. I haven't met her either. She's taken
You
over.
haven't met her either? Okay, this is
She's making it sound like we don't do anything. She hasn't been in a meeting, I don't know.
I was late and I knew who she was. So
Never mind, she's been at the board meeting. Melinda has been at our board meetings already, so she's already been indoctrinated into some of the meeting process.
Okay.
Colin Morrow is part of the Finance Committee. Tony Lizeo, this is Penny Carter. This is Karen Borchert, you know me, and this is Paula. Okay, all members of the Finance Committee, and we have one other whom you happen to know, Jeremy. Okay, he's not here. Okay, very good. Anyway, I'm going to say let's wait on the approval of the minutes and let's just have Jeremy start. How does that sound? Does anybody have an objection to that?
Sounds like an early kick out for me.
No, I'm trying to be respectful of your
Well, I
time
appreciate
and the
that.
fact that you are from out of town and you have a ways to go to get home.
Thank
Can you
you.
make that
Yep.
adjustment to the
Yep.
agenda? Does everybody approve that?
Yes.
Okay, moving on then. So very good. You are on, Jeremy.
Okay. We've issued a draft set of financials. I think you all have a copy of them. Basically, we didn't find anything in the financial statements that precluded us from providing an unqualified opinion on the year's financial statements, so we found them to be fairly stated. We did have one adjustment that was handled by Jennifer related to the loan.
Okay.
The incoming proceeds from the loan that occurred in early January had been recorded as receipt of funds, and so increased cash and increased the loan balance.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Pardon me, Jeremy, we're getting a little feedback from the...
They don't like it. So we made an adjustment to take those proceeds of funds and reduce the loan balance to the actual balance per the statement at December 31st.
At December 31st,
And so
okay.
those loan proceeds were then taken onto the books in early January,
Okay.
and the loan was shot up.
Okay,
to the one
so
page.
everything is in the proper place, nothing was lost or gained, it was just how it was recorded and what date. Timing issues.
Time difference.
Mhm, okay, very good.
Well, and the agreement was signed, I think, December 28th, and
Mhm.
it looked like that's when the additional transaction occurred, and what have you, but it's all worked out. I found the accounting records to be very complete, clean, conscientiously prepared.
Good.
Complicated sometimes, a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah,
Fairly complex for an association. Obviously, large-scale associations with a lot of things going on. The capital costs, the improvements, the repairs and maintenance to the big ticket items, obviously, is a big focus. And many amenities and incoming revenue streams from, the marina, the slip rentals, the canoe racks, all the different things you charge fees for. I did feel, you never know. That's like a dangling sentence.
it's okay, we're hanging.
There's never 100% foolproof way, I don't think, to verify that there's no way that anybody could embezzle, fraudulently create transactions, be paid for those transactions. We tend to do things on a sample basis, some reasonable tests and things like that. But based on my walkthroughs and discussions with the accounting team, the golf, I can't remember his name now, right?
Brian
The
Kruger.
fellow who runs the golf,
Mhm.
gathering information that was held up in the administration office for the different fees that are coming in. I do feel like there's a really good quality of segregation of duties, which is a key to trying to stop unacceptable activities. So that's, for me, coming into a large-scale, self-managed, self-accounted for community, that was a really good finding.
Good.
And you have several people, the collections person isn't doing anything with bank, they're not doing anything with the collection of the funds, they're just chasing the collections. It's not like they can collect some, put some in their pocket, and give the rest to the association and basically say, listen, that the rest should be written off, kind of thing, which does happen occasionally, especially in.
But not in Sudden Valley.
It doesn't appear so.
Okay.
I can't say more than that.
No, I understand, I just
doesn't
want to
appear
make
so.
sure you
Yeah.
didn't see any signs
No,
of it.
and some of those things are so difficult to detect. We did have a large-scale community that had, I think, about $10,000, which in the overall scheme of things was nothing in terms of the financial picture, but it was a bit concerning in the respect of someone actually being able to do some transactions themselves at a different community. Okay, so I think you're a good place on that. Accounting, I think is all been handled very well. The HR payroll, the fact that you have a person who kind of takes the lead with the paperwork and documentation for employees. You have 2 or 3 other people involved in the payroll process, checking timesheets, things like that, is good. As I said, golf, the information is derived from an unrelated party, in a way. They don't work for you, even though it's, they're not. It would take a fair amount of collusion, I think, to take significant amounts of money away from the association as it relates to the golf activities, the golf green fees and what have you. They keep good records, very complete records it seems. The money then flows through accounting here, gets to the bank, and is recorded. So that was good. Okay, those are the main points. Do you want me to go any further in terms of thoughts I might have for anything?
Does anyone have any questions right at this point before we move on? I think only one thing, and I think I've talked to Melinda about this. I know last year, and I don't know if Jennifer spoke to you about this, but she created a little bit of a unique balance sheet, primarily because she wanted to be able to provide us and the general manager with more information regarding where we stood cash-wise and so forth.
Yeah.
But it wasn't your standard cash flow.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't your standard balance sheet.
Okay.
And I think our previous, don't know if she talked to you about this in advance, to double check to make sure that our version
Yes, agreed.
syncs with your
Yes,
version.
yes.
So that we can say that it's audited as well.
Yeah, and I believe Jennifer's coming in Friday.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I'm going to be asking Melinda to just make sure that.
Okay, great.
we get the
I'd
right-
appreciate
the
that.
absolute latest and greatest, and, just to double check. and
Okay, good.
That kind of thing. Okay, so couple of things. I don't know if everybody got a copy. Okay.
He just sent this to me today.
Oh, that's right. Throw me under the bus.
Okay, I have a little bit.
Is this covering some of the things we've just talked about? Or is this almost done?
A little bit, yes. And some of the things I just touched on, I've kind of repeated here, but I don't think it's not a bad idea to just touch on them again really quickly. Actually, if you start at number 4, Joe, I think you need more work.
Okay. That's fine.
No, payroll is so important.
Mhm.
So many, you have comings and goings, you have different pay rates, you have a whole bunch of things. And where I think there's good segregation of duties, you've got several people in the process. Sarbanes-Oxley was put in place for multiple reasons, but having people at a certain level sign off that they've seen something, even if they haven't traced every individual number, they've at least given it the eyeball that, it looks like we've got
Looks fair.
100 employees. It looks like the payroll average is about the same as normal months, except we get a few spikes here and there in the year. Whatever you decide to look at. I don't think it's a bad idea to have someone who's actually not involved in the payroll process actually looking at those reports
Good.
briefly.
So Joe gets to do that.
Well, Joe or the treasurer. No,
I
I'm
could
not-
do it for the next 2 months.
That sounded very
Then
frivolous.
you'll have to try to shove it off on someone else.
No, I'm not trying to be frivolous. Joe, that's, of course, these are just thoughts. They're not, bank reconciliations, same thing. Large scale community that we have audited for 3 years now elsewhere. I went to visit them about 6 years ago. Didn't get the job the first time we gave them a proposal, but they did give me a golf cart tour of the community. And as I was going around, one of the questions as an auditor I asked was, any fraud, any embezzlement, any other funny things that aren't good? And something that had happened was the person who was in charge of accounting had, from an auditor standpoint, a couple of things we look for in fraud is, one is, does someone have a lifestyle, a car, etc., that appears to be well outside their pay scale? One of the basic things. Another one is, do they never take time off? Are they always there? Are they afraid for anybody to see what they're doing and all that kind of stuff? Different indicators. Nothing, no great unusual ideas on that. But this lady apparently liked her cruises and different things, had a nice car, blah, blah, blah. She was on one of her cruises. Treasurer came into the office, didn't understand something, spoke with one of the other accounting people. They couldn't figure it out. He or she said, let's call the bank, see what they think, see if we can figure this out. They called the bank. The bottom line was, the bank statement being used by that accounting person who was on one of her cruises had been edited when compared to the bank statement the bank had for the same period.
Okay.
So one of the things this particular community does is, I know a lot of it's electronic now, but someone on the board or the finance committee, or I think in this case it's the treasurer, looks at those bank statements and compares them to
This is our reconciler right here.
Yeah, and
She
compares
looks
it to
at
the
them
bank
all.
statements that
Mhm.
are being provided
Yep.
to you by accounting, and I think that's
It's good.
a good one.
Okay.
So can I just ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
You're saying that that's something that should be done as a recommendation and that we're doing it?
I don't believe you are doing it. Okay, I didn't realize that, but I think in that case that's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
cash, the reconciliation of the cash, I have a friend a few years ago who called me on a Sunday or something and said, hey, I think something's wrong with my partner in the money situation. And we started talking, and his partner, who he just turned over most of the banks and credit cards to, had been, again, taking into some kind of a Adobe type of software platform and changing the numbers and modifying and, you know.
You're not seeing any evidence of that you can
No,
tell at this
and I'm not
point?
trying to sound alarmist about
No,
the
no,
whole
no,
thing. I think that's I didn't
I
realize.
agree. No.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that we're following through
I think
on
that's
these things.
wonderful that you have
Yeah.
that in place already. And I didn't realize.
Yeah,
And
and
she's
it's-
only one of,
And it's not cash reconciliation, there's somebody that goes after me, but I match up our bank statements to our bank, or the finance statements to to the actual bank statements and make sure that everything matches across,
Where do you get the bank statements?
from accounting.
But if they would have doctored them, then you would have gotten the doctored version.
Well, that would be true.
that would be true,
So
although
it's
they're
gonna be
coming out of some of them are downloaded.
I think all of them are downloaded. I mean, but what you're saying is if you put it into Adobe, then you could,
Yeah, I think
you
the
could
best way
change
to
that
get
up.
is to get direct access with the bank.
Right.
At just a lookup, you obviously don't want to be involved in transactional.
No, she wouldn't be.
things.
No, I don't want to do anything
No.
transactional.
She
It's-
doesn't have access to transactions in the bank account anyway.
But I think it's always good to take that second.
Okay, that's an action item I think we'll take and, for the future. I mean, obviously, we're only a couple more months here, but that might be something you'll want to talk to the future.
And even just having staff just know that it's done. It's just a
Exactly,
Well, I think
it
that's the biggest
discourages.
Yeah.
on the whole
It
thing.
discourages somebody trying to figure it out. People are pretty clever these days if they want to get away with
And
something.
you don't create
so.
internal controls because you're suspicious, you just create them because that's the right thing to
Yeah,
do.
and also to protect employees against being suspected, in my
Right.
mind. So if something does go wrong, you don't want to have left the door open for anyone to have had access that could now then be accused of something that's not appropriate.
We do get them both ways. We download and we also get paper copies in the mail.
Okay, so that might be part of our reconciliation, is matching whatever we use to make sure that it is the mailed version.
If you have the board member open the bank statement from the mail and then the staff who was reconciling downloaded it from the internet, that'd be great.
That's
Get
great
one
if we
copy.
could get if the board member has that flexibility and
Well,
can
if
come
they don't,
in time to
just
get
the
it.
board member just needs a login. And they log in, they
Yeah.
pull it up on their own.
Yeah.
Good.
But you're absolutely right, it is a deterrent.
Yeah,
More than anything.
okay. All right, well, we can work with the accounting manager to figure out the best way to cover that. So thank you, that's good. Okay.
Number 7, pretty straightforward, the FDIC limits, and a lot of banks have the second level SIPC insurance on investments and some of the private levels of insurance. And I believe this was a follow-on from a prior year, and you have a kind of a policy in place that you feel confident about
Right,
those funds.
we've got some, what do they call them, sweep accounts or something that move things into FDIC insured, so we're not unprotected.
So was this occurred at the beginning of 2018?
I believe it exists at the end of the year.
There was a problem.
It was at the end of the year.
Yeah,
It was fixed
we
after.
started to collect more money than we anticipated in some of our accounts, and we realized we had to make some adjustments. So, yeah, we went through approval of getting some new accounts set up and do a
I mean, a lot safer
procedure.
today than it was 10 or 11 years ago when the economy was in the tank and some banks were going under and all that kind of thing. Okay.
But even when that happened, there was no accounts that weren't FDIC insured banks over $250,000 that were lost.
Correct.
It was all protected by
Yes.
the U.S. government.
Yes.
Mhm.
Realistically, it's not a concern.
And it's been fixed now. They're all. it's
All of ours
covered
are
now.
good now.
Good in what way?
They're all.
Well, they're all
Maybe
protected.
200.
Nothing goes over the FDIC limit now.
Okay.
If it approaches that amount, it gets swept into another account
I'm just
that's.
saying, I don't think it's a big deal, but, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, evidently, somebody did. Jennifer did, so she fixed it. Okay, good.
Accounting, month by month, the assessments are recorded based on cash receipts, not on the amount billed, assessed for that
Mhm.
given month, which is based on budget. And, my sense is that there are some opportunities to, based on what the finance committee and the board want to see and want to have reports on and all that kind of thing, to maybe try and streamline some of the accounting process. I think in some cases put it this way, I think it's an awful lot to bring someone in and get them up to speed in a fairly short amount of time. There are a tremendous amount of places within the whole system of which, I don't know all those different places where you've got to do something. And that makes it very easy to not do something and maybe no one notices,
Miss a
maybe
step.
someone does, miss a step,
Yeah,
the
I get
report
it.
doesn't make sense, whatever it is. And I can understand if there's a serious delinquent accounts receivable situation where you're really heavily invested in saying how much money you have all the time. And so cash is very important to know how much is coming in. I'm wondering at this point whether you need to see how much cash has come in before you then allocate to the other funds, the monthly appropriation, or whether you can do that on budget. I mean, it's not an audit finding.
Yeah, I don't know if I
per se.
understand fully what you're saying. Are you thinking just bring the cash in and then determine where it goes?
No, I'm just saying, based on your budget, you know how much your budget is projecting you're going to allocate each month. Just do it all based on budget. And record your revenues each month based on budget, which is effectively what you're assessing people. And then you'll have the collection issue, potentially.
Do you understand this, Melinda?
Yes.
Okay. As long as you understand and I'm good. Does anybody else have a question? I'm lost on this.
Well,
This is
talking
what
about
you're
it could be a
saying.
change in accounting method, though, wouldn't it?
It's more of a way you do it. And I think at the end of the year, there's a true up to the actual budgeted assessments or the amounts assessed. I'm just wondering whether it's it's an extra step month by month or an extra number of steps month by month that I think could be avoided, would be avoided if you just said, okay, you got those 5 other funds, we bill this, we bill X through the operating fund, and then we just move money across based on budget. Every single month we move the same amount across. Now I can understand if there were serious cash crunches and you decided you couldn't actually allocate the money across, and maybe that's part of the monthly meeting is to say, okay, how are we doing? Can we actually move money to the other funds?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I fully
Are you trying to move to
understand.
a cash basis or an accrual?
Away from a cash basis.
More from an accrual basis.
Yeah,
More
and
from
it's not
accrual.
just the cash basis. It's I think it's the time and effort it takes to actually bring all that data in, run all the numbers, and all that kind of thing. And I think it could be simplified. But again, it's not really an audit.
I guess I would bow to those who are more CPA types that would have a better understanding of how that would fit into our. I mean, I appreciate that. That's great, and I think we need to maybe look at it and decide, is that right for us? I don't know.
Yeah, and it might not be.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
there was a very good reason.
But I think that may be why Jennifer created so many spreadsheets to try to figure out where things were and create. I mean,
Yeah.
she used a lot of spreadsheets to report to us what things were. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's ideally accounting software, if it's the right software, I think. Ideally, in a perfect world, you get your reports from the software, not separately created and
I agree with
all that
that.
kind of thing.
So,
And then,
so how does C3 compare to what the ideal software would be?
a lot of one of the biggest, in fact, EMB set it up for you, didn't they?
They did.
Because Associa, who owns EMB now,
Yeah.
they use C3
Yeah,
across.
they
their
actually
whole-
designed it,
Did
as
they?
I
Okay.
understand, or they hired somebody to
Okay.
design it.
It's their
Yeah.
kind of.
It's kind of their proprietary software.
Yeah, we do see different types of software. Caliber is a newer one, or it seems to be taken on board by a lot of management companies in Washington in the last year or two. And I haven't had a lot of, I haven't asked the questions too many times, but I don't hear too many people being unhappy with it. I think it's web-based, so you can drill down,
Oh, you're laughing at the kids? Not at web-based, okay. I'm just checking, Melinda, I thought maybe.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so listen, I think the point is, I probably don't know enough about what you as a committee and what the board wants to see and how you want all the numbers sliced and diced, what makes sense to you. Is it for usable data? it would just be nice to get that out of the accounting system,
Mhm.
rather than have a lot of extra analysis and
Mhm.
bringing numbers in and running different things. But
I
So-
think that was an issue Jennifer had with the existing accounting
She's been
system.
looking for
Yeah, she was
a
looking.
different system that we could
Because
potentially go in.
it wasn't providing the reports that she needed.
No,
that
which
we
is why
needed.
she created the
Yep.
spreadsheets,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
with pivot tables and all that.
yeah, and you can take your hat
Yeah.
off to her for doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I don't think it's user-friendly to your average person. I mean, if
It's
you didn't
not.
create the table, pretty hard to figure out how to use it.
It really
Yeah.
is, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we could put as a note here that we maybe should think about or consider,
We should find out.
find out what
I
other
mean, when I hear
softwares
it
out
say
there.
it, I mean, accrual is usually always a better, more accurate form of accounting than cash basis, but I always want to start with the assumption that there was a reason that it was done this way, and we should
I
make sure we
agree.
find out what that is. At the end of the year, the numbers are reported on an accrual basis, so it seems like it would make more sense to do it monthly, but there may be a good explanation that
Yeah, I think everything else is on an accrual basis.
on a monthly
And
basis.
so I'm wondering how much of that goes back to times where maybe you had higher delinquencies. So you really
We had
were
high
looking-
delinquencies, and I'll tell you, 2 years ago, our net assets were like minuscule. We were working on prepaids to pay our bills, so I mean, we're in much better shape
and,
now,
so that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
You'd be looking at that.
Mhm. Yeah,
There's-
we were really worried at that time about what cash did we have on hand to be able to make payments of things, so that could be one reason, but, all right.
But you could still manage that on an accrual basis.
You could.
You'd still know you don't have much cash.
Just look at the bank account, right?
Well, you know, if you are on an accrual basis,
Mhm.
you know what if it's correct, you know what you're obligated to be spending based on what's been incurred,
Mhm.
even though you haven't paid the bill yet.
Yeah,
That kind of thing. So
well, we do that on a lot of things. We do accrue on a lot of things, even our capital projects. We always obligate that money as soon as we approve it, even though it might be a year before we pay it, so.
Yeah, well, we should look into it, because I think it's worth.
I think it's a very good recommendation, okay. We better be prepared to have that discussion with the board, who are more or less lay people.
okay.
So that might be maybe you guys can figure out a way to help mention that as to, although it would actually probably be something that next year's board is gonna look at, or the finance
I'd
committee.
reach out to Jennifer, ask for her explanation first. She might be able to give an
She
explanation.
might be able to
that-
give that,
That
yeah,
answers it, and then we're done. So,
yeah.
And this certainly isn't, I'm not trying
It's
to
not a
sound
criticism, I
critical.
get this, yeah.
If I look at the new person coming in
Mm-hmm,
who says she likes Excel, and I know Melinda apart from a few emails and 15 minutes of chat in her
Mhm.
office before we came over here, right now, it's a heck of a lot for someone coming in.
mm-hmm,
And if they don't have guidance from the prior person, which is currently, I guess, available at some level,
mm-hmm,
it's a lot to learn.
mm-hmm,
An awful lot to
Yeah,
learn.
I
and
can
an awful lot
understand.
not to understand.
mm-hmm.
You might understand the accounting principle, but you can't necessarily understand how the schedule report does what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense,
Okay. The last thing,
makes sense, right?
the last kind of bigger
Makes sense
ticket
that you
item
can't understand
relates
other
to,
people's spreadsheets,
relates to capitalization policy.
Mhm.
Expense versus putting on the balance sheet and depreciating over a useful, expected useful life. You do it in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, which is good.
Mhm.
However, prevalent industry practice is not to do everything you do with your property and equipment. The equipment's probably okay, it's more the common property, the roads is a good example
Mhm.
of those roads. I don't know whether you can sell the roads or what. It really comes down to, and I'll read this off to you. It's in
if
the
we would, if
If
we
we
could.
could, we Yeah, in a heartbeat, yeah.
So you know, for normal associations that can follow prevalent industry practice or GAAP, there's no law that says you have to do one or the other. Capitalizing assets is usually when you have title or other evidence of ownership, which I think you do, confident you do. And then either of the following: you can dispose of the property for remuneration for cash
Mhm.
at the discretion of the board, and the association retains those proceeds from the sale. Okay, or the property is used to generate significant cash flows from members or non-members outside of the normal assessments. So per use fees, things like that.
Mhm.
So I think really what it's getting to is, are your capitalized assets actually working for you, generating income as they might for a normal business, not an association? So I would say, you can argue all day long probably the pluses and minuses, the pros and cons of all these things. My initial thought when we first looked at your financials was that the roads, they've been on there, it's a big chunk of change. Is there any value? There's value to the owners to be able to get to their homes and things like that, but are they creating any financial value to the association?
They're certainly not generating
They're
any
not
kind of
generating-
fee, or we could try that.
Yeah.
Toll roads.
Don't think it's a good idea,
And so I come to the fact that your members' equity is a touch under $13 million.
but. Mhm.
A significant amount of that is your fixed assets
Mhm.
minus the accumulated depreciation.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at you from a business standpoint and I see you've got 13 million of equity, it looks really good. That's value, that's worth, that's capital built up for the owners to potentially share. My sense is...
I said I wish.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the point. My sense is that that's overstating
Mhm.
your capital, your equity, significantly. Because you can't turn around and sell those things, that common property.
Mhm.
I don't even really want to call it an asset, but that common property, you can't sell it and make money from it. You can't, you probably aren't charging, you can't charge a fee. You probably, I don't know what you'd have if you tried to charge a fee for road users that would make sense. So, if you're owning a toll road, these companies that build toll roads, they're expecting to generate income from those toll roads over a long period of time to pay for the cost of the road in itself, the maintenance over goodness knows how many years, and make a profit and a return for the investors.
Mhm.
And in this case, it's just nothing like that. It's built as a convenience for people to get to their homes.
Mhm.
So I don't think it needs to be a radical audit adjustment on this audit. What I would encourage is some discussion to see to take a good look at what comprises that common property and determine basically whether we should effectively write it off. The net realizable value on a lot of it, I would estimate, is zero. Now, it's different. That's real, what we call real property.
When I said, I wasn't like casting that
It's okay.
aside. It's like, oh, aha, that was
Every
more-
time you do
yeah.
that, I lose about £3, which
No,
is good. It's really good.
I thought I'd clarify so you didn't mischaracterize my statement, but yeah, I'd like to have more discussion
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
And I think that's an area to definitely look at. It's not going to impact you financially, which I know it's probably a bigger thing at the moment, but I think it's certainly something to look at in terms of, is that the right way to do it?
Mhm.
Does it make sense to present that on the financials?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that occasionally, like last year, we had to present our financials in order to be able to get a loan. So
Yeah.
what's the impact of that to a bank when they're assessing our situation? I mean, we can obviously, they know we're like the largest homeowners association in Western Washington, and obviously we own all of the common ground, including the roads, but
Well, if I'm a
is there
banker-
any value? What would a banker's comment be on
Well, I
that?
think a banker is going to be looking for return on investment. And those
Okay.
assets. And the return on investment is obviously people can't buy homes and pay the assessments if they can't get to their home.
Mhm.
So there is that argument for it,
Mhm.
but the fact that it inflates the net worth of the community to some very large number that is not convertible into cash,
Mhm.
I think, to me, that's the biggest sticking point in the continuing account for it in this fashion.
Okay.
Again, the way you do it is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, but usually we say, great, that's perfect, thank you, well done. But I think for HOAs it is a bit of an animal. Okay.
Are we recording depreciation on the?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Yeah, but it's a slow burn. I don't recall the number of years, but it's a pretty long period.
But it's probably consistent with the
reserve study.
improvement and the work that we've done, or that's the
Yeah,
that's the intent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, and then obviously, so I think when I looked at the reserve study to try and compare capitalized expenditures during this year versus expensed reserve capital or roads or the other funds, expensed costs. I think you have a lot of older common property that I think probably wasn't on the reserve study initially. At some point, you recalibrated.
I don't know
Yeah.
how much has been added since we
Yeah.
first started doing reserve studies. Penny probably has a better idea because she was part of the first
Yeah, I think
reserve
if
study.
anything, we've taken stuff off.
We've
Yeah.
actually
Because we-
demolished some.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
Mm.
I meant when we first started doing this, not everything was included, and then we included a lot more than we would typically include, would it typically be included, because we were in such dire straits. And then I'm not sure about the last reserve study, whether or not we went back to something that would be considered more normal as far as the
I
reserve
think
study.
we actually added some things
I think
last
you
year.
did.
We
Yes,
added
you
Quite a
did.
few things
You did.
last year,
Yeah.
yeah.
Related to the spending pads that you now have,
Mhm.
I believe, were the biggest biggest
We were required
differences. Yeah.
through the new law to put in, to more fully state and put some of those larger items back in that were not previously on the reserve study.
Some of those items you're treating as capitalized fixed assets, common property fixed assets. I think because they're almost like new projects because the asset, the common property that was either there or it's been demolished, or so you've put them on the balance sheet as an asset rather than expend. Usually if you have a component on the reserve study, when you come to repair or replace that component, you basically expense it.
Right. You just take that amount off it's no
Yes.
longer needing a
Right.
future repair, or at least not in the immediate future, probably it moves it further out
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And maybe even beyond the 30 years.
Right, and then that's another issue, I guess, the whole 50-year thing. But yeah, so just some food for thought on that.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I guess if I leave here one thing from a accounting operational thing is I really would urge you to look at simplification. Not because people are uneducated or anything like that, just because it's complicated. I think it's complicated for what you need. That's just my view.
Yep.
Thank goodness
Questions?
Mitch isn't here.
Well, I think the history would tell us that it got that complicated because there was significant questions from the community members, or some of the community members, about where everything is being expensed, where we're getting cash from, how we're spending our money. And we've created a lot more complication, I think, in trying to be more transparent and providing more information to the community because that's what they were demanding. So
Yeah, and it's easy to come in at
That's a
11th
fair-
hour and say, wonder why you did this, but
Right.
as I was going through the order, I'm
Yeah.
thinking there had to be a really good reason for this.
Yeah.
Most of it's economic, or people ask questions. However, having said that, if you have a software package that takes your 6 or so funds, you have at least one bank account for each, and basically does the accounting in each individual silo, and you present that information in the reports in the different silos, and when you move money around between the funds, the obvious one is the monthly assessment allocation that you usually gets all pushed through the operating fund and then allocated according to budget, unless you have cash flow crunch. But let's say it's all based on budget, you do the same amount every month. It's moved across, it shows up as assessment income in each of those funds, and then you can see all the expenses in each of those funds. I think it's the same thing. It's giving you transparency of reporting on an individual fund presentation.
Okay.
I've never been a fan of C3. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I was on the finance committee when we started using it, when EMV was around. And I feel like there's a high likelihood that there is a better, more efficient solution that we should consider.
I mean, my first week here, that's the question I'm asked. If this is designed for HOAs, why are you creating so many other extra reports outside of that? Because, I mean, it's not like you're using QuickBooks, you know, and can't generate.
Yeah, it's a pretty robust, I think, at least it seemed to be pretty robust, but to Jennifer's credit, she created a spreadsheet to answer every question that we ever asked, and that was unfortunately more than probably, necessary, but anyway, there you have it.
We can't
No, she did
can't fault her for that.
great with what it was capable of,
Yeah.
because I
What
know
it
what
could
was the previous,
Yeah.
I kind of have an idea what went on it a little bit, but we shouldn't be needing to put everything into Excel to get what we want.
I think it's gonna take some exploration to find,
It's not going to be
How-
easy, no,
whether
but I don't
there's-
think we should take this recommendation lightly.
no, I agree with you. I think it needs to be something recommended that the board and staff research and determine.
You know, I don't know, is any of you going to CA Day, beginning of October? There's going to be some management companies there who use different software.
Yeah.
Might be an opportunity to
Pick your brain.
pick some brains.
Good.
Unfortunately, most associations have maybe a max of a third fund, whether it's incoming settlement monies from a lawsuit or something, or special assessment fund, special purpose fund. Rarely do I see them keep going out for different reasons.
We do have lots of funds, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, this would be a good time to do it because we have enough time between now and the end of the year to actually put something in place, possibly.
Well, I don't know if you could get a new software in place, but you could do the research and figure out, honestly, to put new software in? Are you kidding me? I've been there, done that.
Sorry.
No problem.
No,
You would
Joe
have
could
to
make
do
it happen.
If you would have to do it within the year, like not at the end of the year, you would have to do it at like a quarter or mid-year.
Maybe January to through March, you could work on something.
You want to run them simultaneously
Yes,
for a while. but
Exactly.
I'd still rather do
Precisely.
it over the new year, ideally, but
Let me just say, I was here when we put in C3, and that was supposed to cut over February 1, and I suggested running on Tandem. That wasn't going to be the course of action.
However, that was a different,
what did we run before
Yeah.
C3?
Tops.
Tops.
Yep. But in any case,
Oh, yeah.
we ran at Tandem for 3 months before we cut over, so, and even then, we had lots of trouble. So I think, it's not something, in my opinion, and I know I'm gone in 2 months, but in my opinion, it's not something we rush into. We need to find the right software and make sure that we fully understand what it will do for us and what it will take to install and bring it up to speed. And it needs to be able to take the data we have and feed it into that software without having to do a lot of manual work to get it done.
You can do that project when you retire from this meeting.
Tony is at the top of my list.
you don't want to be on that list. So
Jeremy, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to, so the bottom line, in all of this, if I can try and summarize what I think I heard you say in this report, is one, we essentially we have maybe more cumbersome systems, but we have good systems in place. We have good accountability in place with multiple with multiple, with people with multiple different responsibilities, so that segregated, thank you, responsibilities. You didn't see any evidence, and that would lead you to believe that the probability of embezzlement, fraud in some sort, theft is minimized, and that you are essentially giving us some recommendations that we could take or leave,
Right.
because it's not anything that we're doing wrong, it's just opportunities that you see as perhaps improving the processes that we have.
Yeah, improving and I think making more efficient.
Got it.
And making turnover of certain key positions less painful, or perhaps not achieving what you want through just the challenge of going through the forest.
Got it.
Good summary.
Good summary.
Good summary, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that I
She
got
didn't even take that many notes. All right,
Thank you.
Tony, any questions? Colin? No? Karen?
still learning, I'm new.
Oh, that's almost a year and she's still new. Colin? Good? All right, Joe? No? Good? Jeremy, thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
well, thank you.
And I guess we're gonna see you again for the board.
We're working on
You're working on
an
that?
alternative
Oh, okay,
We're
whatever.
looking to see if we could do that,
Oh,
video conferencing.
Video conference, because he will be in San
if
Diego.
possible.
oh, okay. Well, oh, what a shame.
Yeah, it's a
San
tough gig.
San Diego.
I think
wow.
I'm gonna be gone that night.
Everything gets boring.
She's gonna go sit with him in San Diego.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you. I'll be trying to
Appreciate
work with you.
it. No.
Seriously. Thank
And
you
we'll
very
see
much.
you next year because we have a 3-year contract with
We
you.
do.
Is that correct?
We do.
Yes, so I hope next year turns out to be a piece of cake because you will have already learned some of the intricacies.
Well, unless Colin decides to do the conversion. And then we have to talk about the fee.
Okay, we understand what that means, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Have a good trip home.
Safe trip.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't realize that you're working with him then.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, very good. Well, once again, we're in good.
Kudos to our staff.
Yes, well done, staff. Thank you.
It's always tough to have a new accounting firm come in at the very beginning and do this thing because we're so used to doing it with another accounting firm for a number of years and they get used to us. And when somebody else new, it's just a lot more difficult.
However, this is what we really were looking
Yeah.
for, was a chance to have a different set of eyes, look at it. I think our last accounting firm was awesome, did a great job for us for many years. But I think it was time for us to have a fresh set of eyes look at it and make sure that we weren't missing anything. And I think his suggestions were well founded.
But it's tough for them.
It is tough for them, and he admitted it. He said when he first got here, I had no idea. You guys are a big firm. And I mean, I think he did his research, but maybe not totally. So he found that we were more complex than he expected. So it's good.
We're just special.
We are special. Yes, we are special. Very special. All right, very good. All right, so now that we have done the presentation, and he is going to present to the board when, dependent on what Jamie's plans are with him, working with him to try to find the time and
I mean,
location.
he'll present one way or another next week.
Okay,
But
so
I think the
it'll be
preference
next
is
Thursday.
video conferencing. since
Okay,
it's
very
downtown.
good. So we may do it in, but it'll be in the dance time?
Correct.
Okay, all right, very good. Awesome, thank you. All right, so next on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Does anybody have any motions to make regarding the minutes or any corrections or anything?
I didn't see anything. I moved to accept as submitted.
Thank you very much, Penny.
Second.
And thank you, Karen. All right, so I take it you mean all 3 sets? Okay, does anybody have any discussion regarding the minutes? Okay, those in favor of approving them as is? All righty, very good, approved.
And keep taking them. Just wait till next week. 6.
Okay, so next on our list is a surf request, and I'm taking it that that's why Maddie is here to join us. Would you like to come and join us at the table, Maddie? Thank you. So we'll get through the audit here and get to the
Fun stuff.
the fun stuff, right. Okay, go for it.
Sure, so part of the SURF process this year, you guys and the board ranked playground improvements as a level A priority and earmarked $50,000 towards those improvements. So this is our proposal for how we'd like to spend those this year. And we are coming up on the point where soil disturbance is going to end. So that's why we're presenting these 2 specific parks. So the first one we would like to do is the Gate 5 Park. That one was improved a few years ago. Playground equipment was installed, but then it was never finished. They just put down some wood chips and that was it. So for parks, you are required to have a certain amount of depth for fall surfaces and falls off your piece of play equipment. You need to have a certain depth for that. And you need to have like non-splintering material. We have regular wood chips down there and no playground border. And so our plan for that is we need to excavate down a little bit. So we want to do that first. And we were hoping to do that starting around September and it would be done within about a month.
So you'll make the October 1 deadline?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and this was the next
Or
part.
I guess September 30th.
Yeah, yeah, this is the next park prioritized by the PTR committee to be renovated. So it is in line with what they were wanting to do. And so, yeah, we'd have to dig down a little, add the right amount of fall surface. We use pea gravel because here in the Northwest, we really shouldn't use anything else because it's going to deteriorate so fast. So we use pea gravel. I think you have to use 6 to 12 inches or something like that. And it's for playground border, and we're going to put landscaping material underneath so to avoid the vegetation from growing. But it's a significantly large area, so that's why the price reflects that. Yeah, about 70 feet by 40 feet. And it's a very large play area.
Yeah.
And
I noticed there was a lot of weeds growing and so forth. That's one of the reasons you put the right kind of...
yeah, it just wasn't finished.
Yeah.
They didn't put that landscaping fabric down to kill all the stuff and then put the right material on top. So it would be looking a lot better after this. So that's really what we're proposing for the Gate 5 playground, is to finish it how it was supposed to be finished.
Okay, very good. So, do we have a motion?
Well, wait a minute,
no.
that's not
Oh,
part of it.
huh?
That's
Yeah.
only part
Oh, that's only
There's
just...
more.
There's more.
Part 1.
Part 1, I got it.
Part
Okay,
2
sorry. Yes, you're
is,
right.
Part 2 is this playground out here, actually.
Yeah, so there's the
Actually-
second one.
Yeah, and it has the right fall surface, thank goodness. So that means we can actually do it outside of soil disturbance, because all we need to do is just replace the borders. The borders haven't been replaced, I'm not sure in how many years, but they're all kind of deteriorated now and broken, and we're constantly trying to piece them back together, but they keep breaking. So they really need to be replaced. And then we'd like to add more pea gravel. It needs it because it has to have that certain depth. And we'd like to add a new piece of play equipment, but that's really, the priority is getting it up to the safety standard it needs to be at. So the play equipment would be, after we've done all the safety stuff, we have some money left, would be great to get a new piece of play equipment. We have the space, so that's kind of something we'd like to do. But we also want to just kind of do a general sprucing up. Replace the sand in there. It tends to
It's kinda
accumulate
icky.
some nasty stuff. So we'd like to replace the sand, We'd like to paint the gazebo, put a bike rack in there or something. We constantly have people storing their bikes inside the building during the winter, and we try to be accommodating, but that's not really what it's supposed to be. So, you know, we want to encourage healthy lifestyle. So it'd be great to have some type of, you know, bike rack, and then maybe pouring some concrete for the benches and actually attach them to the concrete, because people tend to move the tables around and get very close to the creek sometimes, and it, yeah, just needs to be properly finished.
And one
So
of
that's
them
really
looks like it's like someone set fire on it or near it. Have you seen that? I don't know.
No,
Anyway. Looks like it's burned, but I don't know. It's fine. It's metal.
Yeah, so, and that's the second project that could happen in October outside of soil disturbance. And, you know, 50,000 was allocated for this year, so that's where we're choosing to go with this part, because this is the only one that we could do outside of soil disturbance. And it's heavily used.
Yeah.
And it could really be a regional opportunity for Sudden Valley. We have so many people coming to the pool now, you know, they bring their kids here, it's just another opportunity to come and maybe spend money at the rec center. So that's why we're proposing that. Yeah. So we provided, Jacob Close provided all of these itemized costs. And it's hard to get costs for projects like this because nobody's going to give you quotes for wood. Pretty much
Screws.
what we do.
You didn't get a quote on screws? I really am
Right?
surprised.
What we
For
do
four
is
of them.
once we're ready for the project, we go around to all the local places and see who has the cheapest wood, pretty much, and go with them. I do have some quotes for bike racks, and I printed out some play equipment stuff if you guys like to look at that. But really, we'd like to, the play equipment's at the very end, you know, depending on how much we've spent on doing the safety items. But we want to use this company called, what is it, Play and Park. I actually found the sticker when I was inspecting the other parks that we used for Gate 5 and for Huckleberry. This is the same company. And so it'd be nice to use the same company. We can buy directly from them, which is awesome, because usually you have to go through a third party and they charge you extra. And sometimes they even require you to provide proof that you have a certified contractor to install the equipment for you. We have staff who can do it, who are qualified, you know, and so it's so much simpler to go with the company we've used before. This company actually tells you how much the stuff costs on the website. Surprise, surprise. Most companies don't. So there's a range of things, different play equipment that you can buy. And I printed out some options. I don't know if I pass it around or not. But.
So, but the major, if I heard you correctly, the major goal is safety, making sure that everything is safe and less likely for kids to be injured.
That's right.
Okay.
Is that everything?
That's it.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so that was
Question?
Colin and Jenny.
Call
Got that?
the question?
Question? Well, I have a question.
Okay,
Call the question. I have a question.
So you've included $15,000 in your proposal for playground equipment.
That's right.
So if you don't use that, is it because you overrun on the other parts of the project, or are you committed to using this?
That's the part where nobody's going to give us quotes for wood and for screws, and so this is like our best estimate of
Okay.
what those things are going to cost. And those are the things we need to buy, more than the play equipment. So this is really what we think we're going to spend, which leaves us with like $15,000 worth of play equipment. You know, if we had less, we want to still live in budget, so we choose a different type of play equipment that costs less.
And it looks like you've pulled them from
Doesn't it?
6,000 to 15,000.
Well, there's a range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they range a lot. We looked at that whole catalog last night. The
Yeah.
Parks Committee did, and we flagged a whole bunch of stuff that we liked. But I mean, it's from like a few $100s. Some of the things that are really small. To
$50,000.
yeah. You get these huge things that wouldn't even fit in the space that we're looking. But you can really find it, play equipment in any range that price range that you want. It's just what makes sense.
Do you know what you would reuse out here? I mean,
We're gonna keep all this stuff, and we're not taking anything away. The only thing I'd really like to move, and I've seen this a few times now, is the ball. It has the numbers on it. You throw the ball into the top. People buy it because it's very cheap, and it's supposed to be on a basketball court. You throw the basketball into it, and then it goes out the number, and it's like a game. So I'm not sure why it was installed like that. It's just a cheap thing. we can move it.
Yeah.
So I was honestly, we'd like to consolidate as many of those boxes as possible, so you're not having to skip in between boxes. And it could just be one big play area. It would help save the pea gravel from splashing out too. And the goal is to move that, basketball thing there, and then put the new piece there, because there's room in the back too.
But you plan on reusing everything that's there?
Oh,
Yeah.
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 We're
Well,
gonna keep it
I
all.
thought some was kind of old, so I didn't know.
The things that are old, people like. I like that metal slide. Kids love it. I was just
Yeah,
talking
they
to
do.
Karen. You can get like 4 kids on it, and they all love
Their
looking down it.
favorite.
So we would
Yeah.
plan on maybe if we had money, you know.
Maybe a tunnel.
They
or
really
something.
like
That is
putting, they
dangerous.
like putting pea gravel on the top and
Yes,
letting it
watch
slide
it.
on.
They do
Oh,
like,
yes, I
they
watched
do like the sound that it makes.
Blink, blink.
Yeah.
They do,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah, that's big time.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So there won't be as many sections, most likely. It'll be a bigger
We'll
area.
be consolidate as many as possible to have a better flow over there.
Okay, good. All right.
And
It's
the only
good.
other question that I had, which is partially probably price, but at least some of that wood out there was put out there not too many years ago. So, well, I would say within the last 5. So I'm wondering whether or not we could use composite material instead of wood.
I can ask Jacob.
I mean, it's more expensive, but there's a lot more structural composite stuff out there today than there was 5 years ago. And you know, I don't
Just
know.
consider it.
Just
Yeah, just consider it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah.
Is that all
That's it.
pressure treated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I think some of it is how it's built too, so the way that the top kind of hangs off the lip and then the kids
Yeah.
stand on it and jump on it.
Yeah.
It weakens it really
Yeah,
quickly.
it's not a good design.
And if you've
From that
seen, we've redone maple leaf and huckleberry, and we don't do it like that anymore.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's like a straight border, and the wood is a little thicker, I think.
Yeah.
So it'll last longer, but we can look into composite.
Well, just whatever makes sense.
Yeah,
But yeah, composite is
especially for the Northwest. I mean, it does make sense.
indestructible theoretically.
How can I call a
Last
question?
elected.
You can call it.
Don't have to ask.
All right, is there any objection? All right, those in favor of approving this for $50,000?
Oh, wait, I do have one question real quick,
Okay.
because in the very bottom, it says after recommended contingency 49,981, but then in the request, it says request 47, so we're approving the 49.
And contingency, well, wait a
Yeah.
minute, and contingency, and actually the request is for 50,000. It's like $8.22
Okay.
difference, so.
Okay, I get
We're
it
hoping
now.
to be recommended for the full 50,
We'll
and
just
then
recommend-
anything that we don't spend, we'll
Just give back, okay.
Yeah,
I got
but- yes, I think that's important for us to note, is that any money unspent will go back into capital for another
Yeah, and I
project.
already researched like bike racks. I found a cheaper bike rack that'll work. That'll be just as good, you know. So there are ways we can cut down.
All right, so without objection, those in favor? Okay,
Thanks to the
unanimous.
Parks and Trails
Yes, thank
for
you.
that, because that's, I mean, it's
Yeah.
good stuff. I mean,
That's a lot of good
thoughtful
work and
work
good
to-
research.
So
to go
we,
through it. I appreciate that.
well, we just sat around looking at the catalog. Maddie is the one that sent all the research to us, but
Oh, so you guys are armchair researchers, got it.
I had my kids look at it. You
And
know,
they- and
we got
they
a lot
liked
of
stuff?
good. Yeah,
Okay.
we have some teachers on our committee that looked at it and they put in some had some opinions about stuff just based on what kids use. But if these two get approved by the board and completed this year, that will be 4 parks renovations in the
little
since
over-
the special assessment was
little over a
passed. Which
year.
this is capital funds, not special assessment funds, but. I remember not too long ago sitting and being like, how on earth are we ever gonna
You take
do
it one
these,
at a
so-
time,
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
So we're getting there.
Good
Progress.
job.
Good job. That's great. Thank you. All right, so that takes care of capital requests. Any continuing business? I don't see anything on the list. Anybody else? Oh, thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie.
Bye.
Bye, Maddie.
All right, new business. Let's, I think we're gonna turn it over to Joe because he's
Okay.
got a bunch of things that he's been working on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually have added two things, so we'll talk first about the engineer study
Right.
for community discussion.
One of the things that we have to look at, we have to look at the feasibility of this building. Can we, first of all, A, is it structurally sound? B, can it be, if it is structurally sound, can it be retro? And what the cost would be for that? And that would include structural, electrical, whether it's earthquake proof. And then
ADA code.
ADA, all the stuff.
Code, just
All
the
of the
code.
code.
All the code, yeah.
We have to look and see if it is, first of all, feasible to rebuild here in this current structure, or is it better to tear it all the way down and come from the ground up? So we have been I've been talking with Tyler from P&W, just to get me an engineer, to just give me a very thorough investigation of this building. Not saying that we're ever going to do anything with it, but we need to have a baseline to start from. Can we build it, can we rebuild it, or do we have to build it from new? So that is one of the things that is in the 2020 budget, is to go ahead and have a plan looked at for this building. So that's where we're gonna start with that.
So can we rebuild it?
Mhm.
Can we rebuild?
Can we build new?
Mhm.
And what's the current state of the building and
Yeah.
how many rules are we breaking as
Exactly.
is?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if we do keep the building and retro it, what are the codes that we have to get to?
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
don't decide to retro building.
And one of the things that we found from the revitalization was if we retro the building, some of the codes will be more lax if you fix a 50-year-old building than if you build new. So, for instance, we talked tonight about the earthquake component of it. There are different standards that you hold an older building to than a newer building. Newer building is much more stringent. So those are all things that we have to look at to determine what's the cost
What's the best-
benefit and
yeah.
what's the trade-off that you're giving up one way or the other. So those are all those are things that we need to communicate to the community, because the community's got to be behind it, and we've got to make sure that what we're doing here is something that the community would.
So I would have a request in that regard for engineering relative to this building. I think this building, if it is not required because of its age to meet current earthquake standards, we should not accept that, and we should only accept something that will meet current standards.
Well,
'Cause
it is a current standard, just so you know. I'm just explaining, I think, a little bit of what I've been reading so far. There are two different kinds of standards. So there's one that if it's an older building, it's a different code that you have to come to versus a new building. Because obviously there are certain things with an old building you can't make it happen, but you could still make it a safer building. You just may not be able to do it under the same code as a new building. So, and I hear what you're saying. I think that's the trade-off we have to look at, is if we fix it, if there is a significant difference, that's got to be a decision that
We have
the board will make.
Fixes that are required under the current law, then we have, if we say, that's not good enough for us, we feel like we need a building that's earthquake proof, then it would cost this to make it earthquake proof.
Right, and then you
And
have your
then-
options that
and
you
then-
look at and the cost to
Yeah.
go with them.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, what I'm gonna have Tyler, the engineer, do is give me the good, the bad, and the ugly of the entire building.
Mhm.
So what did we do with the $140,000 that we spent?
That was we have those reports, and there were two engineering studies that were done. One was structure of this building, which was very minimal, and then the other was a wiring in the electrical in the building. Now I can tell you for sure that Maddie has been tearing her hair out because I don't know if it's electrical or security system, but the alarms have been going off in this building quite frequently, and Security Solutions is over here all the time trying to fix that, so we got something going on there. But the rest of it, I just don't know. I don't know what we can retrofit. We'd have to put sprinklers in, and how you do that. I mean, refurbishing a building there are many ways to do that. You can gut it and start from just the outside structure, or you can try to retrofit, like hang sprinklers from the ceiling. I mean, I don't know what the options are. We have to find out from an engineering standpoint what their recommendation would be.
But what was
When we
the-
don't, that 140 that you're talking about was for a look at everything.
Everything.
And that was the marina, that was Area Z, that was the maintenance building, it was the parks, there was the pools. So everything was looked at from a 50,000 foot level.
High level.
Yeah, this we have to look at, I mean, when you actually get down to doing it, you have to do it at a much closer level and much more.
Have you figured out what the cost is gonna be on this, doing this?
That's what he's talking to him about right now.
Right now, that's what I'm working with Tyler right now, to get an engineer and give us a cost.
And we aren't gonna go forward with anything until, I mean, obviously, we have to make sure that the funds will be there next year for it, so.
And
It would be.
One
try to
of the
do it.
things, I think this has got kicked down to us here in this room, is to try to come up with a plan to go forward.
Mhm.
The board kind of leaned that way, I believe.
Yeah, they feel like we know more than they know about our current status. I guess, is that the best way?
I think that's a fair assessment, so we
Yeah.
have to start somewhere. So it's gonna start in here, and it will work a long range, but we have to get a study, we have to see where we're going and go from there. But the feeling that I got from the board is, there's two board members here to my right, is the same thing, it's gotten kicked down to us.
Well,
So
that's
we get to start the ball.
Yeah, and I think if you give them something to react to, that's better than just saying, okay, what do you want? We've been saying it for years and they haven't given us
That's what I was
anything.
gonna say.
So
Well, it's pretty
just like-
obvious, we need the options. We need to know what the options
We need to
are.
what the options are.
We need a very good detailed plan of what we can and cannot do, and then let the board decide and let the residents decide where we go.
Yeah, I think the plain and simple truth is we can't leave it as it is. We've been holding off on doing repairs until we had a better idea of what is here anyway, and I think that's good because we haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that could potentially have been spent in a better way, especially since doing piecemeal, it always costs more than trying to do things all at once, so.
Who's giving us the proposal or the?
P&W, Pacific Northwest, they're the project managers that we've been using this year and a little bit of last year.
Would it be helpful to get a perspective or a
He
quote
will-
from someone else as
He will
well?
bid it out, he will bid out for the.
Oh.
he'll bid
So,
it out.
yeah,
Oh,
his
okay.
job will be to get it from
Okay.
multiple people.
Okay.
The other thing is that, I guess I'm gonna say a little something about P&W. They have been super great in monitoring the situation at Area Z and making sure, by the way, the spring structure is up. Oh, it's done. Yes.
It looks
It is.
so
It's
good.
beautiful. Oh my God.
One of the things that P&W that we've been
Where's the
working on.
champagne?
At his house afterwards.
As we all know, we have been doing a lot of permitting for crossover culverts. Tyler and I have been talking and working with the county. We may not have to use as many permits because we will be under the 500 square foot ground disturbance. So it would be more of a maintenance issue as opposed to a full-blown study. So there will be a potential savings right there in the engineer costs alone, just for our culverts that we're going to be doing next year. I'm working on right now with 1 in 30 Fairway, which has been approved. We do not need a full-blown engineer study because it will be just a maintenance. It will not be a full.
Yay!
Good work.
Good job, Joe.
So this is why, one of the reasons we have P&W working with us.
They have a skill set that we were not privy to before, and so we're quite
We have
pleased.
another company that we can go to versus having just one single company that we've always
And
gone
the
to.
thing is that they act as sort of our go-between, and they will research and find the best contractors and get bids from them for us so that they can oversee, and then they'll oversee the project.
Mhm.
They've been very good and have saved us a bunch of money already.
Well,
So,
you kind of get what you pay for. I mean, it's like, yeah, if saving some money and getting the stuff done right, those sometimes aren't equal objectives. I mean, they're kind of counter objectives.
yeah.
But it's hard for the uneducated to know how to make those trade-offs. So the fact that we're using these professional people is a really good use of our money.
Yeah. And I think Joe's had some experience with all of this in the past, so he's.
With culverts, I've done a lot of culverts and a lot of road work, so.
In Pennsylvania, he had, so I really, his expertise has been very helpful as well to be able to start looking at other alternatives.
You get
for
some
us.
rain there, and the culverts get some action, don't they?
Yeah, we run, we took out all the corrugated metal pipes and ran anything from 18 to 24 slip lines, because we couldn't run anything smaller.
Hmm.
Shallow water.
Wow.
Hmm.
I hope we're
I would
not
just
going-
say, that, I guess in the long run, I mean, it still sounds like everything is going through this one company. At some point, you
We will
know, someone
re-
else needs to get it.
Right.
You know,
We
just
will
to make
rebid
sure.
it,
Not just them, but
Right.
maybe we have a project at some point that we just go to someone else and say, hey,
Yep.
what can you come up with this?
Absolutely.
And then-
He's been really, Joe's been really good about that. He's been kind of trying a lot of different groups to see who can provide us with the best results, and I felt really good about the research he's been doing and the people he's been working with. So for now, this group has helped us a lot with Area Z and the culvert work we've been doing and the roads and so forth.
So the sprung is up.
sprung is up. She's not hot yet. We're waiting for PSE to come in and hook me up. That'll be sometime over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then we're ready to go.
And so then that means the stuff
Every-
gets moved out of there.
Gets out of there.
And then,
We will be working,
do we have the money to get?
we're gonna be very tight. We may not have enough, but what we have to look at, the bigger issue we have to look at with that building is once I tear it down, I have an 18-month window to the county to put something back up. So
If we ever decide to do that.
If we ever decide to do it. So the
And what he's
decision-
trying to do as well, just so you know, is attached to that window barn 7 space, because we don't have anything in writing that says that that is available now. The only reason we would want to do that is if this building becomes something that we need to demolish and do, we may need that space as part of the rebuild. I don't know. But the point is, we don't want to
We don't
we
want
don't
to.
want to cut all of our options in half, so we're probably going to wait till next summer to take that ugly.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Thing
the
down.
bigger
the thing
issue
is to move the
yeah.
stuff.
So you're saying, so you would have the option if we needed to rebuild this building rather than repair it, so that we can, like schools do, you build one while you're using one and then, okay.
And the biggest problem is we have an 18-month window.
Mhm.
Once we tear that building down, day one, or
That
when
the
the
clock
clock
starts
starts
ticking.
ticking, and
Mhm.
something has to come out of the ground in 18 months, or
Mhm.
else we will be fighting an uphill battle to get anything done.
Yeah.
Because most of these buildings are within the setbacks of the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the
200
biggest
feet?
issue.
And so if we don't hit that window, we lose it.
There is a very, very, very,
Very
very
good
strong
chance,
possibility.
yeah.
We would have to probably beg and plead the county, and I don't know, with it being in the watershed, as close to the water itself, I don't know if we would ever be able to put something in here up out of the
The
ground.
only thing we know is it gets more complicated.
Yeah.
And more expensive.
Yes, it's more expensive.
Yes, always, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Where's the
Penny?
PNW magic?
Huh?
That's all right.
How did the paving project go?
It got done. I've never seen that material used. I am still gonna wait to see how she comes out of winter. I don't know. I think it would have probably been better, off the experience, what I know, I think it would have been better to do a double lift of tar and chip and fog coat it, to be quite honest.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Well, you tar and chip, you have 2 layers. So you would run a layer of hot oil, come in with your chip, press it in, come back with another layer of hot oil, press, and then throw stone on it, press it in, come back with basically driveway sealant, the black sealant, which is a fog coat, and come back over it with sand. And then you got a better layer.
That's what they do out here.
Yes.
On roads.
Yep.
And then that's a lot more expensive.
You have more money, yeah, you're running 3 sets of oils as opposed to 1. But you also get a better surface. What PennDOT does out east is they'll mill out a brand new road, come back in, put hot stuff down, 6 months later come back in and do a double lift and a fog coat, and you get about 9 to 10 years out of that road.
My impression, if I remember right, was just that this was something, it was worth it to try it
It's an
and
ex-
see how it works.
Because
If
it was
works out,
significantly less
great, then
expensive.
great. If it doesn't, we can do it.
We can do something.
Go back.
Back to Penny's
Right.
comment, sometimes you get what you pay for.
It's a
Sometimes things work out, folks.
And sometimes they do, and I'm hoping, I'm hoping.
The problem I found with it is that we were shooting a liquid and waiting for it to dry.
Yeah.
As everybody knows, liquor will find its lowest point, so she will run. I don't care what they say, it will run. Plus, people decided to drive through and around my pilot cars, which made it even more fun, which means they tracked it, and there are certain areas where if they didn't drive through, it would be fine, but they drove through it and it wasn't set yet. So you see tire marks.
So does that harm the integrity of it, or does it
No,
just look
it just
horrible?
looks,
Okay.
it just looks awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it too, and then I just wondered, I was mad, and then I wondered, well, does this really mess it up, or is it?
No, it doesn't mess it up, it just, now you have tire marks.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it will be forever. It's like,
what
it's
is the
like
life
the kid
of
who
this?
walks
Five-
up the
5 to
cracks
7
cement.
is what
Okay.
the,
5 to 7
that's
is what
what
we're
they,
told.
Mike D'Angelo told me.
Sorry, guys.
Mike D'Angelo told me 5 to 7. We'll see how she looks.
Yeah, now I will say, Mike worked back east
He ran it.
for 20-some years or 30 years on construction. He loves this stuff. Of course, he didn't work with this group, so we don't know if
We
it
don't
was.
know. We'll see how it
We'll
goes.
see. I'm hopeful.
That's why we kicked it out for next year, phase 3. I want to
Just
see-
waiting another year to put any more down.
Striping?
That will be within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's the same question.
Okay, so that, we sort of got off on a little
Yeah, we
different
did.
tactic, but I think that it was all good stuff to talk about. Important, okay. Anything else on that?
Not on Barney.
Okay.
A quick question.
Yeah.
I know you're still in the conversation phase, but do you have any idea how long it might be before we would even get a look at it? Is it going to be next year?
It would have to be, because we have to wait for funding, so we really can't start anything, the clock really can't start going until at least November.
Okay.
And that's the challenge that we're up against right now. We have to figure out, the funding windows and when they can get the engineers in here. One of the things, again, I did out east is if we knew we were gonna do this, the guy would come in November, they'll meet January 1, if they're okay with that, and then get all the work and get it done before, so.
Good. Something else I was gonna mention. Just, I can't remember. It must have been a lie, actually, I'm thinking, because,
Not from you.
Once they get started, do you have any idea of how long it'll take to?
That will be, I'll find out more as we get along with that. I would take a fair guess to say you're looking at 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
When we do this, or if we do this, I want something that will, again, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and put it all out there in black and white, and then let everybody decide from there.
Just hope we don't have the same situation that we did in Barn 7, where we went through.
I don't think where it collapsed, you mean?
No,
Oh.
where we had demolished Barn 7 because there was infestation that wasn't
Okay,
discovered.
now I will tell you that they have found evidence of powder post beetles in this building. They believe most of it is gone. It's been taken care of. There's some in the sunshine room
Sunshine
still.
room.
Sunshine.
Sunshine room still has some, but obviously that would be something that needs to be taken care of before we move forward on this, so.
They did treat it earlier this year and replaced the ceiling in there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that was where it was. I know it was
Yeah.
up in the ceilings, so. I did want to mention also, you and I talked about the fact, I asked him about this Barn 7 location because of the tie to Barn 6 and 7. We're not going to do anything else at Barn 7. We were going to try to clean that area this year, but until we know what's going to happen with Barn 6, it makes no sense to do one and then have to mobilize people back to do.
Well, but our clock starts ticking too. So
It does,
It's already started and it's kind of out, so we're working with the county to kind of pull everything.
He's trying to negotiate with the county a little bit and make them be nice to us, so.
Speaking of the clock ticking.
Yeah, okay. So, the next item is the 20-year dues projection, which is what we added to our agenda tonight. So talk to them a little bit about what you've done there.
One of the things that, if any of you guys have seen the board meetings, the last 3 of them, they were rather heated. And the biggest concern is what dues will be out over the course of time. As all of us know that we had to put in the indebted that we were required to by law. That scares everybody, but it is something we had to do.
And we'll have to do that in our dues, our budget.
Next year.
This year.
No, for a package.
It has to be part of our budget package for the AGM. We will put in there what every homeowner's indebtedness is for the next 30 years based on the
But it
reserve.
also will be, no matter what, if nothing gets done, it'll be presented the same way next
Mm-hmm.
year because we are required to do that by the law. We
Every
cannot
year.
get around that.
Yeah.
So it will still be put out there. There's no way around it. The concern that I had heard, and Carol and I talked a lot about this, is granted, this is a 40-year problem, and there's no way we should fix it overnight, nor should we. So I sat down and I started working on some numbers with Carol. And if Tony remembers, I kind of held him to the fire at the last budget meeting where I made him put on tape that we will pull all the big projects out and make them special assessment.
Did I do that?
Yeah, you did.
I don't remember. Is that in the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes,
Tony, thank you very much, Tony, for helping me out with that, even though we kind of like let you
You
know.
might just remind everyone what those were.
The big projects are on the SURF is the Area Z maintenance building, barn 8, whatever we just rebuild or refurbish, clubhouse interior refurbishment. Roads would be the marina parking lot for revitalization, and I took out the $300,000 for the plan for that because, again, we don't know if we're going to do those.
Marina parking lot just mean pave.
Pave it.
Pavement.
Nothing else, just pave it.
I don't know what you did in revitalization, but we need to.
It was
drainage.
It was more, what's happened is it's eroded down to water table level. And so it has to be, my understanding
Has to
is
be
we have to
brought
put
up.
drains in and raised.
'Cause I
So
was
that's
looking at-
why expensive.
Yeah, I was looking at that for $2.2 million. If we're just gonna put hot stuff down, that's kind
No,
of expensive.
it was a little, and it was, that was what we were told from the permitting department, that was the requirement.
So I pulled all those big
Pretty
items out.
expensive.
And
And is there more work on the marina on the spit or something, the inside?
Those-
The inside of the spit.
those are already in capital for 2 years. There's two, they're 2024, I believe, and they went back to back. One of the things that I'm working on right now is trying to cash flow this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna move them apart. Because they're about $1.2 million. They're 640 and change a piece. So we're working, so Linda and I are working on getting those cash flowed out. Roads were much easier. Okay, I have roads broken out with those items and then with what was obligated to us already in the spreadsheets that was given out. I can cash flow right now.
And when you say roads, you're including the culvert, all of those?
All the culverts, all those projects, the
roads,
bridges.
all the bridges,
Got it.
right,
Okay,
right.
all right.
So we've been working on these formulas there was a baseline funding, if you remember, in one of the tables. There was a number that we needed current funding right now. Jennifer had taken into consideration all these bigger projects, took those out, so then there's still a number in there that we would have to become whole for that year. Took those numbers, added them up, divided by 10, because it was only a 10-year study, got me a baseline to work with, added that to the current fund, and then had a special assessment for the bigger items in roads, as well as capital.
And assume a 3% increase on ops.
I have a 3% increase in ops. Ops would change 3% starting in 2021.
Can I just say one thing? His numbers aren't ready yet because he has to finish, otherwise we would have handed this out to you. He will give it to you once he's completed it. I don't want part
I'm
stuff
just checking all
out
the
there.
assumptions.
But he's going to give, I just wanted to make sure you understood why you didn't have this in front of you, so.
I was anything in front of me.
Yeah, I know, this is right now.
No,
This is discussion here.
Yeah,
But
this
this
is discussion.
plan starts in 2021 and runs all the way to 2040.
Okay.
I'll still be here.
So it will be.
I don't know if I
It
will.
would be a 20-year plan, and there is ops increase. The first few years, there is there's a big bump, and then there's a bump nothing for 3-4 years to surf or roads, and then there's a 2% bump going forward from there just because of inflation and that stuff. The big thing right now is Melinda and I are working on trying to cash flow surf.
So that we don't have to take out a loan?
Well, no, not
Or
to take out,
oh,
not to
because-
take out a loan, but to meet the obligations of just general surf.
Okay.
And that is something that you guys have always done before because you never do all your projects
Yeah.
at once. So we're working on trying to move things around based off of the numbers that I've come up with from those.
So you're trying to stabilize things so
Yes.
we don't have these jump up, down.
You-
I get it.
My main goal right now is to, when we get this, we'll present it to this finance committee, we present it to the board. It gives you a snapshot of being able to plan your budget for the next 20 years based off of what needs to be done and if the community wants it. So this is what we're working on right now, to try to get a baseline so that everybody will know that there's not going to be 1 year, it's going to be a $400 increase, next year there's going to be none. It's going to be cut for
You're
20
trying
years.
Trying to even
level
it
it,
out.
yeah,
Level it right
okay.
off of
Level it
20.
And it's still, you're still talking excluding these big
The-
things that we just kind of set
Right,
aside for
but I
now.
have those,
Okay.
I have the special assessment in there for
Oh,
these
okay.
big items already.
Okay,
But I'm trying to cash flow surf right
so
now,
even with that, you're keeping it as
Even.
as level as we
As
can,
even.
a slow, steady,
Okay,
instead
good.
of these
Yes.
big
This
bell
is
curves.
exactly what we've been
Yes.
Can we
asking for.
project
Yeah.
options for homeowners on how they could pay the special assessment?
We haven't gotten to
We haven't
that.
got that far yet. Right now, I'm just trying to draw numbers and getting a idea of what.
And
my
understand that
budget-
what we're coming up with is not something that we can hold anybody to. This
No,
isn't,
no,
I mean,
not at all.
obviously, the board, when the time comes, has to make the decision. Every project is you're gonna have to make the decision is this gonna fund it? Do we wait until we can fund it better
Or do
later?
we want to fund it?
Or yeah, exactly, or do we want to fund it at all? And what other options do we have? And as far as the payment piece, part of that is we have to work with our attorney to make sure that whatever payment options are legal. We went through this before with revitalization and we never got the full answer on that. But there are options where people can pay early if they want to, but I just don't know how we accept the cash yet. We didn't go through all those details. But we'll look at that when the
One
time
of the
comes.
reasons I did this
Not
is-
me, obviously. I don't know why I say we.
was
but anyway.
I'm trying to
Somebody
put the
will.
community
Yeah.
to some ease that we are not going to take dues to $400 a month and then not take them to $400. You know, I'm trying to put that to bed and trying to listen to what they had to say and trying to make something work for everyone. This was not done overnight, and nor should it be fixed overnight. This is something that is a gradual repair.
I get that. I just want to and I appreciate you doing that. It's exactly what we need. But I don't want people to get the false assumption that this 20-year plan is like, okay, this covers everything. We still have this other thing that contains these certain
Right.
assets that maybe we decide to do, maybe we don't. But if we do them, it's how much it's going to cost, and we have the option to pay it over one-time fee, 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
whatever we can figure out.
Right. The payment plans are something that we will work on as we get it more. I'm just trying to get numbers to see
Yeah.
where dues will be so that I have an idea and the community can have an idea where they might end up. As opposed to the fear factor that's been going on with the wide.
I think the goal is, because I've been working on spreadsheets too, but his was much simpler, so I just, he's getting paid for it, so I'm done. So I think the goal though is to look at how would dues go up, what would a special assessment look like if we spread it out over a 20-year period that would fund the things that are in the reserve study. Whether we choose to do them or not, if we do choose to do them based on what's in there now, this is what it will cost us to fund them and also begin to fund at the end of the 20-year period reserves for the future so that we are some percentage of funded for future projects so that we can stop this special assessment component at some point in time.
Well, and I think, one of the things that's changed dramatically in the last few years is our ability to project what we need from a maintenance perspective. And so that's the operations side of this, because as we repair stuff, we want to maintain it. And if we have one person in maintenance, we're not going to be maintaining it. So that's what I'm appreciating about you looking at that from that perspective as well, because now we have more data to say, and my understanding is that if I have this wrong, tell me, but the work that we've been doing with, I guess it's PNW, that they've been providing us with maintenance plans after the projects?
No. They
No.
haven't done any structural work.
Okay, I think what you might be thinking of, if I can help here, our reserve study consultant
Oh, yeah.
once we completed the reserve study for last year, actually, he's from Oregon, and part of their requirement in Oregon is to have a maintenance plan
Okay.
for every HOA, so that's why we hired him. Now, what we didn't fully understand was that the maintenance plan is very elementary, I guess I would say, that is required for them. But what we did do is engage him to help us find a software program that we could use to, and that's what's been happening.
Got it.
We've created this maintenance
Okay.
connection as our software program. We have, John is our
John's
new
doing it.
person who is inputting the data and managing it, and then Bruce uses it as his
work order
tool.
program.
Mhm.
Got it, okay. But we've got tools in place now
Yes.
that we didn't
Yes,
used to
we
have.
have tools in
to help
place where
us.
we can sit there and fully tear down what it takes to clean this building or have this, a schedule, and it's all right
Yeah,
there.
clean
for
the roofs or
how-
clean the.
How long it takes, right down to the minute.
So in the 20-year period that you're projecting, what is the goal for reserves? Is it just baseline, or you?
At the end of the 20 years, you will have reserves in both your roads and surf.
Of what percentage? You don't know. You're working. I'm just wondering if you have a target that you're working towards. or if
My
you're-
target is to try to get somewhere around 50%.
Oh, really? 50. Good goal.
Which is not a huge number by the time you get everything done.
Oh, it really
It's
isn't?
not $15 million or anything, it's a couple. I mean, a couple, 3, 4.
It's a lot more than 0%.
Yeah.
Or negative.
Yeah,
That was
or
my
negative.
biggest takeaway of, well, Jennifer in general, but the budget meetings was how far behind we were in our
Mhm.
reserves.
We will be 2% funded and 3% next year, and then 7% in the red the following year at the current rate we're
At the
going.
current rate, yeah. If we don't, if
We
we
don't.
don't make some change.
And that 2% is only because we
Deferred
deferred so
a
much.
ton of stuff.
We would have
yeah.
been
And the
negative.
same thing with the
Yeah,
3%.
and the same thing with
Yeah.
2020,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Can I mention one other thing, as long as you're having this conversation? I haven't, haven't made a vote yet. There's no vote yet on the board. The board will make their vote, or do their vote on the budget next Thursday. However, it's been adjusted, and actually Joe, at the recommendation of one of our board members, went back and removed about $73,000 out of salaries for next year. And all that was left was to give those who are affected by the new minimum wage law their appropriate increases. And so we're able to lower the total amount going into ops down to about 6.5%, which was, I can't remember, the number is, I'm sorry, 347. So that's the amount of change in operations. However, it also includes adding back in one maintenance person that Bruce requested, as well as a half person coming out of capital to go into maintenance. This is the big thing we heard about in the town halls and at a lot of the board meetings is, why aren't you maintaining? Why aren't you spending more money on maintenance? And so we added 1.5 people back in, actually, so that there is maintenance help. So that's where your dues, the dues right now stand at 13.3% for developed lots of $16.94. That is the current recommendation. Again, there may be a lot of discussion.
13.3.
13.3 for developed. The total amount is $16.94. And then for developed lots is 14% even, and it's $16.49 increase. So that includes the capital.
Hazard trees were added into it.
Oh, the
yeah,
hazardous
hazard
trees,
trees.
we added the 40,000
Took
back
it out
in,
of
because
UDR.
again, people said, we really want you to focus on hazardous trees and to make sure you fund it. So SURF is increased to by 831, and roads by 4.84, but the total is 13.3%.
what's the total dues amount?
Total dues amount is 144.31 for developed lots.
I think this is if you go on the website under budget resources, I'm pretty sure this
This schedule is
the
on
one
the,
that's on
yeah.
there.
There's a button right on the website that says 2020 budget materials. It's all in there. So if you wanted to see an update, I just want to make sure you guys were updated on that. Okay, I'm sorry to have interrupted your.
No, you're
so-
fine.
Okay.
Because that was the next thing, 'cause that was C, so I'm done with,
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I did it, didn't I?
yes, you did.
I had forgotten that, yeah, we had moved it. Okay, but you were done
I
and you
was
wrote
done
the
with
other.
it with-
As soon as you have that, the
I will send it
plan,
out.
we will send it out to the finance.
I will send that out to the finance committee with breakdowns. At that point, please review, tear apart, critique, help out if you think there's anything else we missed or should have added.
Yeah.
Am I correct that our next reserve study is it on-site
On-site in
one
September.
in
Mhm.
September?
Mhm.
Do we
September 10th.
anticipate much
I
change
think-
with the underlying data through that or not? I mean,
You know, I'm gonna,
Again, September
we have
10th, I
some-
think I can tweak what I've got
Okay.
here. It's not.
well, yeah, I'm just wondering if,
it wouldn't be done until towards the end of the year anyway, maybe first of next year. Yeah.
So this does start in 2021, so this is.
oh,
Mhm.
true, okay.
Yeah, so, and who knows, we may make some decisions next year about moving things for certain, but, I mean, for the reserve study, but
That's
we don't know
true.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be next year's board to make those recommendations. All right, I think we're to Melinda then. Financial statements for July, they are in here. Melinda and I had a little discussion, you wanna
Yes.
bring us up to date on these?
Everything is posted again, but because of the turnover, Jennifer was not able to come in before I had to get the financials out. So there are several adjustments that need to be made. And at this point, I think it's just not worth, that's not the right word.
Not worth to take our time to review it right now.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some, yeah.
You said it,
Yeah. There'll be some adjustments.
There's some adjustments that need to be done. I have confirmed with Jennifer, she is coming in on Friday, and will be spending the day with me, getting these cleaned up, and I will be able to send out new corrected financials that will be correct.
Yeah, they're not wrong, it's
No,
just that the
everything's
adjustments are in the way
yeah.
she does it.
It's just July statements. It's not a
It
big
is
deal.
July, and you know what, by the time we meet again, we'll have August, and those will be up to, so, I mean, we'll send them out to you and we'll post them, but there's really no challenge here with this, so thank you.
We got it. We don't want to apply any pressure.
And again, yes, thank you.
Not until next month. Then all bets are off.
As Julie said, there are so many steps, and, with the multiple spreadsheets and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, I'd watch her on those spreadsheets and I'd say, I don't even know what you're doing, but thanks for the answer anyway,
I
yeah.
really felt like my hair was on fire the first year.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, homeowner comments. Yes, Mr. Brown.
I have several questions.
Okay.
And a comment at the end.
Okay.
Suggestion. First of all, you used, Carol, a word that the amount of salary increase in the budget that will come to the board next week includes all salaries impacted by the state salary increase, minimum wage increase.
The increase.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
that's a vague word. When you say impacted, does that mean just those who are required to get an increase, or does it include also those who are being given an adjustment?
You're talking about wage compression. It includes
It does have some of that.
some wage compression in it.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to know,
Yep.
is it the minimum or enough to prevent loss of staff?
Yes.
When Carol and I talked about this, if I'm gonna lose a key staff member, Larry, I'm coming to you guys at the board, and we're going to do
Yeah.
what we need to do.
Okay,
So-
so that's really in there, but not necessarily across the board.
No. If I need to bump somebody up, because I'm gonna lose a key member, the first thing will be to go to Carol, and then we'll come directly to the board.
Or to whoever's in my role. Yeah, because,
whoever,
yeah,
right.
because I
To
won't
the
be here
treasurer.
next year.
To the treasurer, then I will forward it, we will
Yeah.
bring it directly to the board.
Mhm,
But
This is
actually
a
go right to the
personnel
president,
issue.
right, it's
You go right to the
so
board.
right to the
Yeah.
president and then goes to the board from there.
Okay, cool. Next one, I was left somewhat unclear by your description of this 20-year thing and whether or not there are two things being considered. Base, surf, roads, etc., plus an extra special assessment layer, or whether they're all rolled
Nope,
together.
you're exactly right, there's two layers.
Two layers.
Based off the obligations that are on the reserve study, taking out the big projects. There's a-
Which will be added back only
As a
Special
special assessment voted on by the residents if they so choose to do it.
And the whole point was so that you don't have this escalation in dues.
I got that part.
It comes after, out
These
after that.
special assessments then, are they scheduled to begin at differing times, or how is
It's a
that?
flat line, it starts from day one and just continues at the same number all the way for 20 years.
So this one base rate and the special assessments will all be rolled into one special assessment?
No, you have a baseline. You have a baseline which we currently fund right now out of our ops, out of your capital. That baseline will stay.
I got that part. So
Then you will have a
when do
special
they-
assessment.
When do they start, and do they all start at the same time?
Yeah.
As if they were one rate,
Yes.
whether they're separate or not?
Right.
Okay, good.
But it's broken out as a special assessment because special assessments cannot be earmarked for anything other than the special assessments. What they're for.
Perfect.
So that will be a
Get
breakdown,
Did
yes.
someone say that they will be, the special assessment would be voted on by the, oh, I thought
No,
someone said that.
actually, that was said at one meeting and it was in error.
Yeah. that-
So it's
because-
all wrapped into part of the budgeting process, same as the budgeting process.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got that clarification from our attorney.
Okay, I'm left unclear what you just said. Special
was-
assessments will all be rolled in and they're all.
No, okay, so I'll
No, if there was a
explain.
special assessment, it would be approved.
Treated in the same way as the dues are. It's, in other words,
Voted
it's
on in the
dues
same
and special
process.
assessments are all voted on in the
In
same
the same
process.
process. Thank
Yes.
you. I'm sorry, I'm a stickler with exact phraseology.
I'm sorry, but it's 8:30 at night.
I understand. Okay, now, when are we gonna get this 20-year rate? Are we gonna be able to
Friday.
look at it next
Oh, well,
meeting?
he'll have it for the finance committee by Friday, Monday.
Monday probably.
Probably
Okay, so
Monday.
this is not coming to the board?
No, this will not come to the board yet. No, it'll come to finance first and then I will bring it to you guys.
Okay, then the last thing is, there's a lot being built on right across the street from me. Cascade, I'm not complaining about it per se. What I am saying is, I just watched them haul out 9 large sections of timber. 9. And 4 of them, let's say, were about this big. The other 5 were about this big. And so I'm just rough estimating that that's well over 20 grand worth of timber, 25 grand worth of timber. And here's my suggestion. That lot certainly cost a whole lot less to buy, number one. And number two, the county is dinging us for rainwater management. And we're going to start paying, the association is going to start paying that fee this coming year. And it then will double the next year. So the thought occurred to me, since large trees are what contribute to our rainwater management, those people who cut down large marketable trees should be charged for each section of lumber that will be called a rainwater management fee that will be used to offset any of those rainwater management costs that the county puts on us through the new utility rate, plus any other requirements that they put on us in the future, because those requirements will do nothing but increase.
Are you talking for existing homeowners and
No, I'm
builders?
talking about
or
marketable
builders?
trees that are coming.
Are you talking about for builders? who
Yeah,
run into the
essentially,
cut-
yeah.
But that's different, because you have people that have a large tree real close to their house, they wanna take it out, and I'm,
It's a whole different animal.
okay, you're talking about builders.
You're talking about somebody coming in and grubbing a lot.
Yep,
Because that's basically.
I think it happens.
That's what they did. I mean,
Occasionally, yes,
I'm not
am I
sure
right?
how big the lot is, but it was, like I said, at least 4 big trees cut into 9 chunks that got loaded under the truck and hauled out today. And I recall, I was there watching because I thought, they told me that that tree was hollow up about 4 or 5 feet. That timber doesn't look hollow.
Yeah.
That was number one. And while I was watching, the driver said, "Boy, this is sure good lumber." So I know there's market value in it. And we should be obtaining that market value because we need it, because otherwise the community members are going to be paying every dime.
Yeah, is that something to wrap into some of the ACC, we have
Well,
a
that would be an
contractor's
ACC
fee?
That would be an ACC.
I think,
Yeah.
could be,
But
yeah.
let's put it this way, we already have a builder's fee,
Right, we do have a building
and
fee.
that may be part of the ACC stuff, don't know, don't care. The fee is what's necessary, and that
Okay,
it be
right.
used to offset
Yes,
costs
yes.
that are now being imposed and will be imposed.
So above and beyond the builder's fee, tack on an additional per.
Because it only applies to the extent that they cut down
Market.
big,
Yeah, I think
big
this has to
trees.
go to the board.
This water feed you're talking
That would
about,
have to
county's
go
going
to-
to
yeah,
have
this
is
is-
I think
according
yeah.
to
This is
trees that are
about
removed.
But
No, the water
we,
fee
don't
is
we set fines and
based
fees?
on impervious
No.
surface.
We
So
don't?
This would be
So-
finance. This would be-
parking lots,
Okay.
Well,
mean,
we
we
don't
probably
set
roll
them, we
through.
approve them, they actually
Right.
come from a department usually,
Oh,
but
right.
yeah. So
I'm thinking this is something
I'm
that needs
raising
to
it as an
be.
issue. Maybe this committee won't look at it, but
I think the
I'm
board
talking to-
is one.
I'm talking to the
Yeah.
GM, I'm
Yeah.
talking to the treasurer.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, John Gordon, right, is he still?
John
he's-
Gordon.
He's the one that, goes and does the site plans and
Yes.
stuff like that, would probably
He
be a person to.
oversees it, but the.
I don't
Yeah.
think he necessarily, however, he's very careful, he says he is not responsible for the external environment around a house.
That's what I
No,
was
no,
getting
yeah.
ready to clarify. The
Yeah.
ACC has made it distinctly clear that if the county, who now has sort of taken over licensing, permitting for tree
Yeah.
cutting, if the county says it goes, it goes,
Yeah,
period. And since we no longer have control, and since I do not see the county exercising any additional control the way they said they would, we need to make sure
They-
we
yeah.
can tell them we're protecting the watershed under
Right.
our control
Yeah.
because
They-
they're
I think
not.
this would be
They-
something
yeah.
to research.
I have seen the county request planting plants, replanting plants, that's all I have seen.
That's right, and that's a whole different bag, and that's
Yeah.
John and the.
But I'm saying that John is the person that's on site that could possibly oversee, okay, yeah, we have 8 trees, an expectation.
That's a detail.
Okay,
That's a
anyway,
detail.
all right, let's you and I kind of chat about it to see, I think it needs to go to the board. This is not something that
No.
finance committee.
No, this is a board issue.
Can I just ask a question about?
Hang on a second, we've got, hang on.
About,
Yes.
I just want to follow with that, is I don't remember that fee being called out as being a substantial part in the budget.
No,
Mm-mm.
it's coming from UDR this coming year. After that, it will be in the budget.
Are you talking about the Whatcom
The
County,
Whatcom-
or the
yeah.
Whatcom
Whatever-
Water
whatever
District
fee
fee?
that
It's
is on the
it's
water.
the Lake Whatcom Watershed Rainwater Utility District fee.
And we didn't know what it was gonna be, so we didn't put it in there, and the intention was that if it did come to pass, which
It did.
which it did, we would probably have to get the fee out of UDR for this coming year, and then budget it for
And
next
do we
year.
have any sense of what that fee is?
It will be approximately, and this is purely an approximate guess on the part of staff, it'll be approximately 15,000 this year and 30,000 next year.
Okay, substantial.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
And by the way, just to let everybody know, it also applies to every individual homeowner, and it'll come to about 150 a year.
On our property.
It will be billed
Each homeowner?
in your tax bill, your property tax bill, it will be a separate
Okay.
issue.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's quote unquote not a tax, it's a fee.
Okay.
My
Linda.
water bill's been too low
I
anyway.
wanted to ask about P&W. It's just a point of clarification. Currently, we took them on with our special loan money, correct? And there was an $80,000 budget for them, I believe.
They've played several roles, but I think they were project manager primarily for all of the various projects to make sure
And
that.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But now, if Joe uses them to do this extra engineering work, that's not gonna come out of that?
Oh,
He's gonna be
no.
paid as
It's a separate
an
thing.
independent contractor?
It's an independent contractor
Yeah.
at that point, yes.
Okay, just
Yep.
wondered, because we had that all mixed
Nothing-
together with the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing nothing that loan goes for is gonna be anything but the specific things that we earmarked the loan for.
That's why I was wondering
Yes.
when we started talking about PNW, because that's where they came on the.
Yes, but we've been using them
picture.
separately for a
Yes,
few other things.
that's all I'm trying to clarify.
Okay,
That's all I got.
okay, very good. Marcy? Okay, all right, I entertain a motion. Okay. Thank you, everybody.